Hello there, Z Trooper reporting for duty, and this is part 2 of What If Deku Was a Son for All for One. We last left off where All for One was going to give his son 2 quirks, just in case he ended up quirkless, and these quirks he had in mind for a while. One quirk was healing, and the other one I suggested that the commenters decide on that one, and my first subscriber suggested lightning. And this quirk allows him to run faster and give him more strength, and also run lightning through his body and shoot it out. They aren't too strong, but in time they'll get stronger if he works on that. And now we end up on all for One going to his family's apartment, and he tries to get himself looking like his old self before he left. But a little bit older, with tired eyes and scratches to make it look like he worked so hard he couldn't be able to see him. When he got to the apartment and knocked on the door, his wife opened it up and he said, "I'm home." Inko was so happy and started to burst into tears, and was happy to see her husband after all these years. Inko was so happy and wanted to tell Izuku right away. All for One, but known to civilians as Hisashi Midoriya, a businessman that travels across the seas. Inko explains to her husband that Izuku was in his room crying and thinking about how upset he was getting the news to not having a quirk. Hisashi went into his room and said, "Guess who's home, son?" In such a gentle tone. "Dad!" yelled Izuku. He was so happy and asked, "What are you doing here?" His dad said, "I was able to come over and see you guys, and I was a little surprised to hear the news about you." Izuku was happy to see his dad, and he realized what he said at the end, he started to feel sad again. His dad started to feel bad and remembered about the idea he had about giving his son healing and lightning quirks. So he smiled and looked at Izuku and said, "Someday your quirk will show up. Who knows? It'll show up tomorrow," knowing that he'll notice the quirks by then. So All for One hugged his son, and while he was hugging him, he transferred the quirks to Izuku. There was some purple sparks on All for One's body. Then when it got to Izuku, it started to turn green. Izuku noticed it and saying, "Hey, Dad, did you see that bright light that changed colors?" Then acting like he didn't know what he was talking about, he just said, "What are you talking about, son?" Then Izuku just said, "Oh, never mind." Later that day, the three of them went and spent time for the rest of the day together, and had a good time. Then, when night came, Izuku's parents said goodnight to him. Then in the middle of the night, some sparks started going through him, and he didn't notice it, but he did feel some sparks going through his body. The next morning, Izuku said goodbye to his parents and went off to school. In the middle of class, the teacher announced that Izuku was quirkless, like in the original story. And everyone played off originally, like how they insulted him, they laughed. Bakugo made fun of Izuku and started calling him Deku, which was a nickname, like in the original story, but was mostly an insult. Bakugo and his posse kept on laughing at Deku, and Deku started to get sparks of electricity around his hands since of the anger, and just yelled, "Stop!" and pointed his hands and at the bullies. The electricity started going towards the three boys and shocked the three of them. When he stopped, Deku looked at his hands and started to slowly smile and kept on saying that, "I have a quirk, I have a quirk, I finally have my quirk." He was so happy and wanted to show Bakugo, but him and his goons were smoking from the shock. They got up from the floor and looked at Deku with a surprise on their look. The two kids were kind of impressed, but Bakugo was getting madder and madder, knowing the weak link was getting a quirk, and who knows, maybe stronger. And that makes him think of a powerful that his quirk might be powerful than his. Deku didn't think about that though. He thought that now that he has a quirk, him and Kachan can be friends again. But Bakugo yelled, "Just because you have a quirk doesn't mean you're my friend. That just means I hate you more. And one day I'll beat you." Deku smiled and starts going down and said, "What do you mean? I have a quirk now, but we can be friends." And Bakugo stopped him and yelled, "I don't care who you are or what you can do. You'll always be a weak, and you'll always be a stupid Deku and worthless." Then Bakugo and his friends walked off. Then Bakugo turned around and said, "We were never friends, and we will never be." Deku was by himself and started to feel bad that he wasn't able to make Bakugo a friend like they used to be. But apparently, they were friends. Days later, Deku thought about Bakugo saying that he was never friends, they never will be, and how weak he is. His parents tried to cheer him up by saying that he's a strong person and a strong kid too, and will be a great hero. Hisashi twitched when he heard Inko saying his son being a hero, but he loves his son and he wants the best for him. So he's fine with his son being a hero. He just hopes that he doesn't have to fight him and finds out the truth about him the hard way. Days later, Deku walks home on his way from school. There he sees Bakugo and his friends, and he tries to ignore them, but Bakugo and his friends see him and start to attack him. After a while, they left, and Deku was on the floor in pain. He tries to focus on the scars and tries to ignore them. But what he didn't realize, while he was focusing on those scars and bruises, he was actually healing himself. He was confused and runs away and realizes that he is running at an extreme rate. And especially for his age, at the age of 7, he could pick up to 3 cinder blocks at the same time without a problem. Well, that's all I got for part 2, and I hope you like this video, and subscribe and click that notification bell for any more videos. Z Trooper dismissed.